Hi, and welcome to the e-CBD Internet Marketing Reporting System video manual. In this video, I'm going to go through a report for you and help you to better understand each part of the report and why it is significant to your website's performance. But first, a little introduction to why we created this report. As the number of internet marketing clients have grown at e-CBD, those clients doing SEO, AdWords management, social media marketing, etc., we've looked for ways to report to clients in an informative and efficient way. Informative because we don't want to dazzle you with reports that make no sense, and efficient because we want to spend more time working on your site for SEO and AdWords, etc., and less time reporting. We want to make sure that you're adequately informed of your site's progress, as well as giving you information that allows you and us to make informed decisions about your site and, to a greater extent, how you conduct business online. To this end, we've harnessed the power of a number of different tools that we use for our internet marketing services, and we've combined them into a single informative report. Now, let's get into the report and see how it looks. First of all, let's take a brief overview of all the different parts of the report. There's a header section here, which tells you the date ranges of comparison, and the name of the company who the report is for. Now, hopefully this is your name in here and not somebody else's. There are a total of 10 information panels which make up the report, and I'll be going through each of these very shortly. In some rare instances, you may not see certain panels on your report. Generally, this is because there was no data for that panel in the date range that the report is covering. If you have any questions though, you can always give us a call or email us. Okay, let's look at the first information card, the At a Glance panel. The information on this panel gives you, as the name suggests, a quick overview of your site's performance over the month in comparison to the previous month. Included for each item in the left column here is the percentage of increase or decrease from the previous month. So you've got the current month, the previous month, and then the change indicated here by a percentage. Alright, let's start at the top, looking at total visits. As the name suggests, total visits is the total number of people who visited your site in the month of the report. So in February here we can see that 3,881 people visited the site compared to 4,019 in the previous month, and that's a decrease of 3.43%. Okay, so that's fairly self-explanatory. Then we have new visits. New visits are people who haven't revisited your site within the range of comparison. The new visits, obviously good to see that increasing because it means that your site is appearing to more and more people and you're getting more and more exposure to a wider audience. Return visits. Okay, this number represents the people who have been to your site during the month of the report who have revisited the site in the date range being reported on. Depending on your business, this can be positive if it's higher. Say if you had a site where the visitors were returning each month to purchase, or they're logging into your site, you would hope to see that be relatively high in comparison to the new visits. So if you look over just here on the right, we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves, but this is important. So over here you can see that new visits compared to returning visits for the current month. We can also see the previous month's visits comparative, so return versus new. And so this site is getting a lot more new visits, and so that's a good thing for them because they're being exposed to more and more people each month. Next up, we have the bounce rate, and this percentage represents the number of visitors who came to your site, viewed a single page, then left. Generally, the higher this number, the less engaging your site is for visitors, and then when you drill down to individual pages and look at their bounce rates, it can help you identify those pages on your site which might need attention to help them be more engaging for visitors. There are, as always, exceptions to the rule. For instance, if you had a site where the goal was to send people off to a booking form on another site or affiliate site or another domain of some sort, then a higher than average bounce rate might actually mean that the site is performing well. As a rule of thumb, we feel that any site with a bounce rate of, say, over 30% is probably a little high, but again, that varies from industry to industry, so that's just very rough rule of thumb. Ways that a bounce rate can be improved on include revising and adding more valuable content, adding more images or galleries, setting out text-heavy pages in a more readable format, so adding bullet points, headings, subheadings, etc., adding videos or other interactive items such as contact forms, quote calculators, etc. So under the bounce rate, we have the average pages visited. Similar to the bounce rate, although in the opposite direction, the higher this number is, the better. A high number of average page visits means that your visitors are interacting with your site more. And this means generally that there's a higher probability of them completing your MDA, or your most desirable action. So that might be submitting an inquiry or giving you a phone call, or whatever it might be, making a purchase, etc. Next up, we have minutes on the site. Now, in the same way as average page visits, minutes on the site being higher is also better. So it's covering off the average amount of time that a person spends on your site. Generally, you'd want this to be higher than lower, because this will indicate that the visitors are engaging your site, which will hopefully mean that they're more likely to, again, complete that MDA. So make that purchase, make a call, or submit a lead, etc. Then under the minutes on site, we have total goals. Now, total goals, this number represents the total number of online conversions, e.g. store purchases, email inquiries, newsletter signups, click to call for mobile visitors, any number of online interaction with the website that we can track and that has meaning for your business. Obviously, the higher the better, but keep in mind that some conversions are not traceable directly from the site, such as phone calls, unless you obviously have a separate number that you use purely for the website, or you ask potential customers or clients where they heard about your business when they phone. Last, on the at a glance information panel, we have the conversion rate. And essentially, that number is a percentage, and it represents the total goals divided by the total number of visits to the site. So 10 visits with one conversion will be 10%. Generally, a conversion rate of 3% or more is favourable. However, depending on your industry, this benchmark may not be applicable. Monitoring the conversion rate is a good way to test the success of your SEO activities, i.e., if you make changes to the site that draw in more relevant visitors whilst also working to make your site more user-friendly, these activities should help to increase the rate of conversion. Alright, so going over to the graph on the right-hand side, the horizontal graph at the right-hand side of the at-a-glance section helps us to visualize and compare the total traffic to the site as well as the new and returning visitors. And as I explained before, current, previous, new and returning. And so you can kind of see here, as I mentioned, that there are more new visitors, which is a good thing. And generally, you want to see more new visitors each month, as this demonstrates that the site is reaching a greater number of people who have never visited your site before. However, if you have a site where visitors might keep coming back each month, say to shop or use an online facility, the ratio of new to returning visitors might be much closer to the number of new visitors or even greater. SEO, let's go over to the SEO Information Panel over here. This information card details the number of visitors which came to the website via search engines, such as Google, Bing, Yahoo, or other less known search engines. And it compares those with the current month and the previous month. And it lets you know whether your site has received an increase or a decrease in search traffic. So in this case, we've got an increase of 27%, which is good. And we can see that that's an increase of 207 visits over the last month. Compared to January, 207 more visitors visited the site from search engines. Now, when looking at this information card, you need to keep in mind that traffic from search engines can fluctuate quite dramatically from industry to industry. If you're an industry that experiences seasonal trends in purchases, bookings, quotes, etc., you should expect to see those trends reflected in search traffic. This is one of the reasons that organic traffic is an apt name. So if you ever have questions about that, of course, give us a call to help you to understand that a bit better. Obviously, we want to see that going up each month, but some months you will see it decrease just depending on many varying factors. Okay, let's move across to the right here. We have the Channels Information Panel. And this gives you insight about the mediums or channels that feed traffic into your website. On each channel, you'll see the number of visits to the site via that particular channel, as well as the percentage of visits that the channel contributed out of the site's overall traffic. For a full list of potential channel labels, refer to Google's documentation here. I'm just going to cover off a few and the ones mentioned in this particular video. Organic traffic or SEO traffic is traffic sent via search engines to the website, as we discussed in the previous information panel. Referring traffic is traffic sent to the site via other referring websites. For example, local directories, industry-specific directories, partner sites, blog posts with a link back to your site from an article about a product or service, etc. Direct traffic is traffic that has come via a URL. For example, someone has bookmarked your site, or they've copied and pasted the URL from an email, or they actually type it in. And then some of you who have AdWords you'll see CPC, and this channel name stands for cost per click and refers to traffic that is directed to the site via Google AdWords. You may also see PPC, pay per click, which also refers to paid traffic from other various sources. Some reports will also include social, which refers to traffic which has come to the site via any 400 recognised social media websites. This does not include traffic generated by paid advertising though. One other one you may see from time to time is email. And as you've probably guessed, that's visits that have been directed to your site via a link in an email. So when you're doing email marketing, after an email marketing blast, you might see traffic coming via that channel marked as email. All right, let's move on to mobile traffic. Mobile traffic. This information card details the number of visits coming to your site by desktop, mobile, or tablet computers. This data is becoming increasingly important as more and more people are accessing sites via tablet and smartphone. Each device has a tag from their respective piece of the pie, which indicates the number of visits for the month from this device, as well as the percentage of total visits that traffic from this device makes up. So here we can see desktop traffic. When I mouse over that, it made up 51% of total traffic, and that was 1,967 visits. And then we can see mobile traffic here, which made up 31% of total visits, which was 1,203 visits. So quite a lot of traffic. And then tablets, which made up 18%, which was still 711 visits. So it's really important that your site looks good on all of those 3 different devices, particularly mobile traffic. It's going to become increasingly apparent that if you're not catering to mobile devices when people come to your website, then you're going to see people just leave, and higher bounce rates as it goes on. As more people adopt mobile-friendly websites as part of their strategy, people won't put up with a desktop site shrunk down to fit on a mobile screen. So this is something that's quite important. As you can see from this report, there's 1,200 visits from mobile traffic, so that's a significant amount of people to be ignoring in a sense. Okay, let's move on to social. So as you've probably guessed, this information card represents the visits which came to your website via a social media network, such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, Pinterest, or any number of the 400 different social websites that Google recognizes. The percentage next to the social icon represents how much of your total social traffic is made up by this service. So if you had 100 visits from social media and 65% of those were from Facebook, you guessed it, that would be 65 visits. The left number under the social media icon is the number of visits via this network, whereas the number on the right indicates the percentage increase or decrease from that network from the previous month. If you have no social media visits, we might sometimes hide this particular information panel. So we can see here that this is a cupcakery, and it received 65% of its social traffic from Urban Spoon, which makes sense. And we can see that's down 11% from the previous month. You can see a little bit of traffic here from Facebook, 17 visits. So hopefully they've been posting some delicious looking pictures of cupcakes on their Facebook. And then TripAdvisor here, obviously as a tourist destination. Hopefully they've been encouraging their customers to review them and get on TripAdvisor and review them. Let's move on to site goals. This information panel highlights the conversion goals we are tracking on the website individually. These goals might include online inquiries via a contact form, a store purchase, bookings via the website, tap-to-call events from mobile customers, etc. We can even track downloads of PDFs and other important documents. From left to right, the first column gives the name of the goal. So in this case, we have contact, newsletter, and order cupcakes. The second column indicates visually the volume of goal completions compared to the previous month. So we can see up the top, that's this month, down the bottom, previous month. So we can see we had more orders of cupcakes and more contact forms submitted this month. The third column indicates numerically the number of goal completions. So 28 contact forms this month compared to 23, 95 cupcake orders compared to 86 in the previous month. The fourth column gives the increase or decrease in goal completions as a percentage. And then finally, the fifth column gives us the conversion rate for the current month. So we can see a fairly decent conversion rate for ordering cupcakes. As part of doing SEO on this website, we want to try and increase that conversion rate as well as increase the actual conversions themselves. Obviously higher is better when it comes to goals, but you need to keep in mind seasonal fluctuations depending on your industry, but also sometimes you just have a quieter month. Okay, the keyword report. Now this can be a little bit confusing because we've got two sets of keywords here, but hopefully we'll be able to explain this and make it make sense. This is really an important element of the report to understand so that you get a complete picture of how your site is performing in search engines. So on the left here we have search queries. The information in this section of the keyword report is taken from a Google tool called Google Webmaster Tools. These queries are filtered by Australian searchers to present the most relevant information. On the left, you have the keywords. These keywords are actual searches that people are typing into Google and your site is showing up for. To the right of the keywords is the average position that a page of your site appears when someone searches for the keyword. Please note that the average means that it is an average position over the course of a month. Due to things like personalization and the sheer number of pages on the internet, it's quite difficult to say with certainty that your site ranks in X position consistently every time you search for it. Generally, the average position is quite accurate, but you need to keep this in mind. To the right of that is impressions, and this is the number of times that your page has appeared in search results for the keywords on the left. So in this instance, Cupcakes Gold Coast has appeared in first position on average 694 times in search engines. So it's probably the home page, for instance, and so it's appeared 694 times in searches. It doesn't mean it's had 694 clicks, it just means that there have been 694 searches for that term, Cupcakes Gold Coast, and that page has appeared in first position on average. Now on the other side we have targeted keywords. Now targeted keywords are just that, they're targeted. That means that we are specifically trying to rank your site for these particular keywords. Here we can see keywords on the left that we're targeting, and then we can see their ranking. Now this is a snapshot, okay? This snapshot is then compared to last month's snapshot, and the number of positions the site has moved up or down in ranking is shown beside. A plus next to the position means that the keyword has appeared in the search engines this month for the first time, or has re-entered if it dropped out. This snapshot takes into consideration the first 30 results. Okay, so that's the first 3 pages. Likewise, a dash means that the word isn't within the first 3 pages of the search engine or has dropped out of the first 3 pages. So here we can see Cupcake Bakery Gold Coast has dropped 2 positions to 3rd position. So we might say, okay, well let's work on that this month because we want to get that back up. Or then we can see Cupcake Designs has gone up 5 positions in Yahoo. So we use this to keep track of the keywords we're going for. But again, you need to take both of these into consideration, because if you take one and not the other, you can get the wrong kind of understanding of how you're actually performing in search engines. Just wanted to say a little bit more about the keyword report and a little note on keyword ranking, because things have changed and the way that we measure success. And so whilst it might seem valuable to rank for certain obvious terms, you need to keep a number of things in mind. This is something we'll often mention in the SEO proposal before we conduct SEO services on your site, but sometimes it's worth mentioning again. The first and main point is, if a term has no search traffic, there's really no point in targeting it, even if it seems relevant. And so we do research to determine, what actual relevant searches people are doing, and then we will target those terms. Secondly, in the same way, even if a keyword has a lot of traffic but is too broad, it can be counterproductive to target it, as it may not bring in the most qualified traffic to the site. For instance, if you have one person type in motorcycle spare parts and another person type in a search for a particular brand of motorcycle exhaust that you stock, the search for the particular brand is probably much closer to turning into a sale than that broad search for motorcycle spare parts. Or put it another way, 1,000 searches which result in 1 sale versus 100 searches that result in 10 sales. That tells you pretty quickly which is the most valuable keyword. Alright, let's move on to top pages. This information panel gives the most visited pages for the month, as well as the number of times that page has been viewed. This information can be extremely valuable in understanding how visitors are interacting with your website. In this case, the Cupcake Gallery comes in 4th position with 728 page views. And so that might remind me, I need to add in another gallery into the Cupcake Gallery page, so that I can increase people's visits to that page. Or maybe I need to, there's a page that's not that's not getting the traffic you want it to get, making sure that it's more visible so that people are visiting that page. Okay, moving on to top cities. This information panel gives you the number of visits from different localities, as well as indicating the number of conversion goals from those cities. This can be helpful in developing content for different locations to better serve potential customers and clients in these regions. So in this case, our Gold Coast Cupcakery is on the Gold Coast, so you'd expect it has the largest number of visits. Then people in Brisbane, and then Tweed, Byron, etc., and so on and so forth. And so, as I said, you can then use that information to better target those people in those locations, to perhaps turn them into new customers or clients, or to perhaps offer them particular deals and specials dependent upon their location. So hopefully this video has helped you to understand how to read and interpret your monthly internet marketing report. We're always available to talk about your site's progress, so feel free to give us a call or email. And if you're not currently doing SEO with us and this little run through the internet marketing report has kind of piqued your interest, feel free to get in contact with us. Contact details are in the description section of this video, and we'd love to hear from you. Thanks very much.